Log on, tune in, find out. Another good idea from Cambridge.
And then you have the usual commercial metrics. These are the usual things people want to know. How big is the market? So, people would say if this market is $100 billion, you're going to have, say, 3% market share. You could have 3%, you could have 3 billion revenues in theory. So that tells us something about your potential to grow. And therefore, we can look at the growth rate you may achieve, and that'll tell us something about your ultimate valuation. And so people will use that. Market structure is very important. What do I mean by market structure? It means the number of other people who are in that market and how they're supplying that market. So if I pick an example from everyday life, take the coffee shops. What's the difference between Cafe Nero and the shop, well, look, Luigi's down Mill Road, or the corner cafe here, the Transport Cafe down the corner. So what's the real difference? Because the market structure is quite complicated. There are different people supplying different parts of the market. And the value of what you've got will depend on your position in that structure. How much room is there for you to grow? How much can you scale? Can you hit other markets? So, for example, if you take the example of Bebo, any users of Bebo here? Probably you must have used Bebo in the past as a Facebook type. So nobody likes to say they use Bebo now because it's perceived as a 13 to 17-year-old girls thing. But Bebo had a huge valuation, and it was bought by AOL for something like $800 million, right? With lots of advice from management accountants, corporate financiers, and everything else. And when they signed the deal, one of my colleagues said, $800 million, they must be mad. They're targeting a group of people who are fickle, 13 to 17-year-olds. There's no revenue model. This group are not the typical group that advertisers will pay to reach. And the week they did the deal, there was data from Pew Research, as a consumer research organization in the US, actually talking about how revenue, the advertising yields from these kinds of businesses were dropping. Okay, so we have a situation here where the market structure should have been clear to the people who bought, and they should never have paid that kind of money, and yet they paid it. And so what's the effect now? They've had to write it down, and the business is probably not even worth 150 million today. It'll get submerged, sold off, they'll change a few CEOs, and the shareholders will lose a lot of value. And in the process, incidentally, they will destroy a lot of real value that had been created, a lot of jobs. Okay, so you get a little bit of a view from me about the cynic who says, don't trust all these massive valuations. Largely, it's bullshit.